Hello and welcome to the Eddie Conversation Podcast. My name is Eddie Vigil. This is episode number 103, and joining me today is Hannah Sulak.
Hello.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hannah is an actor.
I am.
I like to give an opportunity to people early on to kind of elaborate on who they are outside of a thing that you do.
I feel like most people, when they're asked this question, they think about how they perceive themselves. But I think something I've learned is to ask how other people close to me in life perceive me. And I think one consistent through line is that I'm just an artistic nut, all like through and through. All throughout my childhood until present day, I've just been both a consumer and an enjoyer of just books, cinema, nature. So just all the different forms of creation, honestly. So that's, I think that's the overall summary of who I am as a person. It's just I think I live and breathe creativity in my life.
Creativity and art.
Yeah.
Artistic nut.
Artistic nut.
I might put that as the title.
Artistic nut.
Instead of actor, it'll be artistic nut.
She's crazy for art.
Okay. So, I don't know. There are a couple of specific projects that you've worked on that I want to talk about, but I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where to start. Let's talk about, we're currently in Los Angeles, California.
Yes.
And I do want to hear some backstory on you because on your website, hannahsulak.com.
Indeed. Super simple.
I think you have, I enjoyed the way that you kind of have it broken down. You have the work stuff, and you also talk about a nice summary of essentially where you come from and some history.
Yeah.
But for those that don't know you, can you fill us in on your origin story?
A special shot of information.
Yeah, to get us started.
Sure. Origin stories. Wow, they're so fun. I love hearing other people's origin stories, so it's a treat to share mine. I grew up in Washington State, Bellingham, Washington, to be specific, which is a small little town that is just south of Canada, obviously the West Coast side. And growing up there was extremely isolating, to be honest. We grew up on 5 acres of land, forest in the background. The neighbors were a field away, and so my playmates were my siblings, and then also obviously whatever neighbor kids were available and around. But growing up in the era that we did, which was the early 2000s, technology was still kind of developing, weirdly enough. So we didn't have iPhones yet. We had I think I had a Game Boy Color. At one point, that was the only type of gaming I was allowed to do, other than educational gaming and things like that. So having a strong imagination and being able to kind of create games out of nothing, out of what we had around us, was super essential for my siblings and I. So you could find me in the garden a lot. We had this garden in the backyard, and we had free snacks, from that garden, sugar snap peas,
Sure.
grapes and things. And I didn't realize this was kind of out of the norm, I guess, because I didn't grow up in a city, or I didn't grow up in around a thicker population. And so sometimes I look back on that part of my life and I'm like, wow, this is such a fantastical little chunk. It wasn't all perfect, though. It was, like I said, it was pretty lonely, and I struggled really badly in school with social things. So I was bullied a lot, sadly. But I think that really just kind of helped me form endurance as a young woman. And my mom and my dad put us both, all my siblings, I have three other siblings. It's my cat, Pepper. We all were put in a lot of sports and dance and extracurricular activities because they both worked full time. And so in order to sustain our lifestyle. And so it's kind of like free childcare. And I think that's how I came into the arts, was actually kind of just by trying out every single club as a kid. And it helped me a ton socially. You know, it was just a group of a lot of awkward theater kids. And we overall kind of just learning how to hold presence and hold ourselves and to have unapologetic time and space to share stories, which is why I'm super passionate as a creative about the school system having the arts available. She's right behind your head.
For those that are
she's
watching
sniffing
the video version, we have
Yeah.
uh,
Sorry. When I refer to she, it is going to be my cat Pepper.
yeah,
Just
super cute.
she's very cute. I love her a lot.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like a little tiny portal into my past. It's important to look back on our past a little bit to understand why we are the way we are in the present. You know.
Yeah. Okay. I relate to the story for sure. I grew up in a small town as well.
Nice.
Well, I moved from small town to medium-sized town all through my childhood essentially. But I saw that you were in this, like you kind of said, isolating environment. And it makes sense that creativity was kind of nurtured in a way throughout this phase because, like you said, you and your siblings are just fighting the boredom of being kids with nothing. You know, like we don't where's my iPad that it's not invented yet or whatever the case may be. So, but yeah, okay. Because I wanted. At what point did you? Because you went to New York. You spent some time in New York, and then now to LA.
Yeah.
But like.
Yeah.
It's got to. I'm curious to hear about what it was like being in that environment, and then going to a larger city.
Yeah, big change for sure. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, that creativity was fostered through reading first. So I became obsessed with books, specifically the fantasy genre. Hunger Games came out around that time, and like, there's
Twilight.
Yes.
Okay.
Twilight
Yep.
was also, shot and based in Washington. So, I really enjoyed books that I could be immersive in. So I think my acting journey actually started through escapism a little bit, where I was, reaching for these stories to kind of escape from my own a little bit. But then as I grew older and I started doing stage work and I started musical theater, I started doing all the musicals that were available through a community theater group I was a part of, but then also the school that I was a part of had like one show a year. And so, yeah, I just became obsessed, honestly, a little bit, where I was doing roughly 3 shows a year. And so, getting that many reps in, spending that much time around storytellers, and I had my first mentor of my life, which was my high school theater teacher. Anne Goodwin was her name. She was like one of the first people or first adults to really, really like see what I had and like foster that in a actual practical way, not just like a beautiful, encouraging way of like, love you, like I'm your number one fan, you've got this, more of like so this is what you need to do, this is where you're lacking, the first person to have constructive, formative criticism that built me up as a performer. Her, and then this woman named Pixie, and she was my dialect coach for eventually my senior year of high school. I played Mary Poppins in this in the musical that we were doing that year. And it's interesting because a lot of the time when we're participating in stories or we're a part of a project, the lessons that we're learning through that project sometimes kind of manifest themselves in our real lives, or they kind of bleed into and they cross over. And so if you know the story of Mary Poppins, there's like healing happening within a broken family. And during that time, there was a lot of brokenness happening in my family. And so I think that clicked something within my soul and like within me as a person, where I was like, wait, there's so much more depth to what we're doing here. We can really touch people. We can really move people through art. And not only that, we get the gift of like being moved as well as the person embodying the story. So it was the first time where I was like, wow, this is like such a win-win, you know, we're getting to like, you know, move and touch people in the audience or the viewers. And then we as artists also get to be transformed and enriched, you know, through this new story that we're, you know, existing in, and finding truth in. So through that like situation and story, is the segue to New York, which was kind of hit me. It kind of hit me in the face, my guy. It
Uh-huh.
it slapped me across the face. I was 17 at the time, and because of that role that I played as Mary Poppins, unbeknownst to me, there was two kind of like incognito judges for a statewide competition for high school students at the time called the Fifth Avenue Theater Awards in Seattle. The Fifth Avenue Theater is a place where a lot of Broadway shows come through. They have their own season. They do fantastic shows, even to today. But this program was meant to celebrate young youths in the arts and in musical theater, and to kind of push them into the world, you know, and
Yeah.
push them towards that reality that it could be a career. So I didn't even know this. I think I had like a very vague realization that this was a thing. And I ended up getting nominated for Best Lead Actress. Went and competed against some incredibly talented women. I was like blown away and made friends with them, obviously. And then it was like a day. We just kind of like rehearsed and performed a number in front of like a couple thousand high school students that were there. And I for sure in my heart had already been like, I was like, oh, I'm just here to really be present and to absorb this experience. I had no expectations. Because honestly, I think a lot of the time we don't believe in ourselves as much as other people believe in us. And this was one of those situations where I ended up winning. And they sent me to New York for that competition nationally, which is called the Jimmy Awards, which I think a lot of theater kids, if they're listening, could, you know,
They'll
flag.
know what you're
They'll know what
talking
that
about.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's still going on. It's a wonderful, wonderful program. It was life changing for me. It's kind of like a Broadway boot camp, so to speak. We study for a week at the Tisch School of the Arts at NYU, and we get to be mentored under Broadway professionals. And I had never been to New York at that point. It was my first time to New York. It was my first time being apart from everyone and everything I knew. No one went with me besides the guy I just met at the statewide competition, Andrew. Shout out to Andrew. He was great. Such a grounding presence, honestly. He's hilarious. He was the male that was nominated with me, and yeah, that was when I basically was just plopped right in the deep end of all the things, and my eyes were just completely opened to the industry.
Okay. There's a lot there.
So much.
There's a lot there.
Sorry, that was a little bit of a rant.
No need to apologize. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a few things that I want to touch on in there, and let's see what I remember. Because I do want to come back to New York. We'll work our way back to that. But going back to the mindset, like it's interesting to me to hear because okay, like you winning this competition, for instance, but your mindset, like you kind of framed it a little bit like you didn't think you would win or you didn't think you could win, maybe. And you were just and you had switched the mindset to like I'm going to be present and probably give it your best, give it your best shot and be there and have fun. I'm guessing. And it's interesting to me like that's like that mindset opens up the avenue to like the winning, which is like not being there, being there present.
Sure.
And this is kind of like a life lesson too. It's
Absolutely.
like just showing up and being in the moment and not really trying to make something happen necessarily, but just being there and being yourself and giving it your all kind of opens up the world in a way, which is very interesting.
Very perceptive, Eddie. Very perceptive.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, Yeah, you have good intuition with all that because that is a life lesson, right? It's like, especially with young people. I mean, this was, I don't know, I'm showing my age here, but like 10-ish years ago, almost a decade. And I've just changed so much as a person since then. But I also look back on that version of myself and I learned a lesson from her for sure, where she was able to kind of release and let go and have an open palm about that experience. And I think that in these hyper competitive environments, it can be so easy to white knuckle it or just to like become really internal and to be like, I have to get this outcome because it's the only way I can be happy. But if you look at the whole situation as a gift and you look at the whole experience as the enrichment process, or just look at it as like, yeah, something that it's you can't lose something you never had in the first place, right? So anytime you do get that surprise of like getting a role or you win a competition or you get chosen, in whatever part of life that you're living in, whatever career you're in, those moments of chosenness is just kind of like an icing on the cake. It's kind of like a whoa, this is like a lovely like surprise, and that also allows you to be a lot more loving towards the people around you because you're not seeing them as your competition or your enemy. There's enough room at the table for the experience. It's
Yes,
hard. It's
yes,
hard, but
yes.
yeah.
Well, because the story that you just told had the two elements of that. It was you were Mary Poppins in a theater play, not really knowing
Yeah.
that there were potentially, essentially scouts in the crowd
Yeah. Yeah.
looking for talent,
Mm.
and like I don't know what because we watch. I've watched movies in theater where you're putting on a show like a Broadway show, and then they're like, "This reviewer's in the audience," like
Oh,
or
sure.
this
Yeah.
so and so director's here, and they're like
Yeah.
everybody's getting whispers backstage about like what's
Yeah.
going on.
Sure.
But you didn't. This was not a scenario in which they're whispering, "Hey, by the way, the scouts are here.
No, yeah.
Turn it up." And it's like,
Sure.
it's like, well, at the
That's a lesson in of itself though, right? Where it's
yeah.
like, so much of the artist's work is done in private, or it's just kind of, if you just put in consistent, good work, just kind of pursue excellence no matter who's watching, I feel like
Yeah.
it, you know,
Well, yeah,
something often happens.
pursue excellence and also
Yeah.
keep yourself in mind as you're going through it. Like you said, you're
Mm.
embodying the story. You're staying present within your character
Mm.
and you're taking all the lessons away and who knows if anybody's going to receive that, but there's no chance they'll receive it if you're kind of just going out there and projecting stuff. Like if you're feeling it, that's when.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to say while we're here too is because you popped up on my radar initially because
Oh yeah.
I was
How's
trying to
that?
cast for a short film a few years ago,
Hmm.
and I was watching your demo reel and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I was taking away this like groundedness that you have, like
Hmm.
your like the presentness, like just even just watching the small clips in the demo reel, I'm like, oh, this person just feels present and feels aware. I'm like, oh, this is, and then it, I
That's
reached out and
sweet.
stuff,
Thanks.
and
Yeah.
and all that. But that's what grabbed me about you in the first place was like this that feeling of like it just seems like she's there, and I don't see that very often
Mm.
in people. So it was nice to see that, and it's makes sense to hear the story and how you've approached it. But
Thanks.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So now you're in New York City,
Oh, sure.
and I'm
Yeah.
wondering how it's changed, being that it sounds like maybe before I'm wondering like when it switched to like this is a fun thing that I'm doing and I have community and I'm
Yeah.
feeling like more myself and you're just kind of chasing like you're just kind of running with it and going with it.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're in New York City. Do you have a mental switch of like this is what I do now or this is what I'm
Mm.
like I'm wondering how that changes things for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I was faced at that time after the Jimmys was like, okay, what's next? Well, most people go to college. And I had just been faced with this wonderful epiphany that this could be a career. This is something people do for their entire lives. This is, there's all ages, all types of looking people, personalities that are a part of this, this beautiful industry. I also saw some dark sides of the industry too, and I think that demystification was essential when I asked myself, do I want to do this? No one in my family had a career in the arts, except for one uncle who writes movie music. So he scores things. He's amazing. But I kind of had this fear a little bit around what school to choose. Obviously, I feel like a lot of people see a couple life decisions: where you go to school, who you get married to. Like those big decisions, as you know, they're like these ultimate, like they're life altering choices where your path and who you become kind of are contingent upon them. So I will say that I did overthink that decision quite a lot, and I kind of panicked a bit. I was like, do I go to conservatory? Do I go to, you know, NYU? Do I go to Carnegie Mellon? Do I go to, all these beautiful, wonderful programs? And I was like, for some reason, this little voice in my head, which I will attribute to the Holy Spirit, which is also why I feel so grounded in my life now, is because so much of this life is out of our control. And we do need to make these decisions and kind of step forward in faith and be like, all right, no matter what human decision I can make, there's something bigger and greater than I am going on, something that's being orchestrated, that no matter what, I know that God will course correct. So I ended up choosing APU, which is a small little private Christian school just outside of Los Angeles, here where we are now. And that's what brought me to California. And I chose that school because of some history that had, been around it. My mom went there, my aunts went there, and my older sister, who I've always looked up to, went there. And it was a little hard to make that decision. I was like, oh, am I like, not living into my potential, or am I selling myself short by going to a really unknown program, or, it's a beautiful, wonderful school, but is it known for the arts? No, but that's okay. I think what I gained there was a sense of self, a sense of community, a sense of knowing that artists shouldn't be doing this alone. The people in the program were just like incredibly kind. I think everyone was there for the right reasons, and they all wanted to do the work in a way that was honoring to themselves and to their core values. And I thought that was super admirable. So yeah, that was something I think was necessary for me to learn. I think that whole time it was a little bit of a bubble. I feel like those 4 years were kind of lost in the wind, but I think that they were essential for me to learn how to socialize, to be a young person, to live independently. It was my first time being out in the world, living, outside of the home I grew up in. And did I need a BFA? Probably not, but I think that it was still so beautiful. I think that it was another one of those opportunities where I could look at it and be like, what was the lessons here? What were the ways that I could have ended up a lot different as a person if I hadn't experienced these things. But yeah, that was like kind of a wishy-washy time in my life for sure. Those 4 years. And yeah, I guess that the lesson there is that not everything is super clear on our path. That there's sometimes really strong exponential sharp growth where we're going. And then there's some seasons and some parts of the upward incline that are kind of plateaued and kind of feel a little bit mundane, and that's okay.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So that time felt like the plateau
A little bit of a
space
plateau space, yeah.
where the wandering and the
Mm-hmm.
wondering.
The wandering and the wondering.
Yeah.
It's very good. Well said.
Okay, that makes
Sure.
sense. So, okay, I want to get to talking about maybe recent projects, but I
Sure.
also
Yeah.
am curious just because we're on the story right here.
It's crazy. I'm like combing through my whole life. I feel like, or like combing through my artistic path.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
interesting.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
I'm invested in that now. So I want to know what it was like. Like you talk about it as a plateau, and then that time comes to an end. Like you were living on campus. I'm guessing you're living somewhere. Yeah, you're living
Yeah.
down here.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm on campus.
so you're living on campus, and then that time ends, and you have to figure out what to do next.
Yeah. And then COVID
Um,
hit, dude.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. COVID hit the year after I graduated. So I graduated 2019 from college.
Uh-huh.
And I'm a travel junkie. I love traveling. After I left home and after I experienced New York, I was like, this is essential for well-being.
Okay.
This is essential for my person, just to experience the way that other people live.
Give me
You
more.
know? Oh
Give
my
me
gosh,
more.
Eddie, I love talking about travel. It Yeah, I went to Spain for a month and was there with a group of people. I went and taught English for 3 weeks in South Korea.
Whoa.
Yeah, and oh man, I went to Bali for 2 weeks to do like an intensive yoga retreat. It was like called Holy Yoga, and there I got to just be rejuvenated. That was right after graduating, and yeah, I think every single time I just fell in love with the people. I fell in love with different ways of living and different ways of being intentional with one's life. And yeah, I think that as an artist, it's essential to gather um, life experience and different ways of living and obviously exposure to diversity. And I mean, I've watched an interview recently where the guy was like, he was this famous director, and he was like, I mean, heck, go work on a farm and milk a cow, or like learn how to pick a lock, or like, learn all these just random fun tools that who knows, like what could be used in your art eventually. I fell in love with ceramics. That was something that really grounded me after graduating. I was obsessed. It was so fun to be messy. It really healed my perfectionism. I got to kind of start with a vessel in mind, and then sometimes it would, alter and change, and I had to be okay with that, or even being okay with just scrapping that project altogether and realizing the walls were too thin, or, and man, that's symbolic to life too.
Wow.
Wow, there's so much,
Metaphors.
dude, there's so much
Metaphors.
metaphorical like goodness in ceramics making. I could talk about that forever, but
Okay.
yeah, so that's a little bit of a flavor into
Well, I do want to hear.
my life post.
So you talk about travel.
Hmm. Yeah.
Travel is something that's taken me some time to, like, what's the word? Uh, appreciate.
Okay.
Appreciate. I was gonna say experience, but that wasn't to appreciate. And it's fun to hear that you had this feeling, like you said, it kind of like built up in New York City or New York is when you first kind of your first exploration away from home essentially. Um, so it's nice to hear that you identified the feeling and you sought it out even more. And it sounds like I'm just even wondering for personal, if I want to travel, like it sounds scary. Like, I don't know. How do you?
Sounds scary.
What are just a nice little like? What are
Some
some
tips.
tips on like?
Yeah.
Did you go to South Korea with the intention of teaching English, or are you there and you're kind of like,
Good
like
questions.
I imagine a lot of it is engaging with the space that you're in. Like it's not
Hmm.
enough to be those travelers that get the really curated experience
Yeah.
with like I'm just here to see the sights, and then we go to some ceremonies where we really get included, but it's like it's not really the authentic experience. So is my
Hmm.
assumption presumption, but
Hmm.
what's your philosophy on travel?
There's so much more goodness to be found if you just talk to the locals. The locals are going to be your best friend if they're willing to. Obviously, language barriers are sometimes a hard thing, but I loved these follow-up questions. I mean, each trip I took was so different. The first one I went on was the one to Spain, and that whole experience was one of my first long trips. I really advise going for a long, extended period of time to a place, to the point where you feel like you can start kind of fantasizing or imagining a life there, honestly.
How long does that take?
I would say even after a month of living in Spain, and I went to a little town called Altea. So we flew into Madrid, took a bus to Alicante, and then took another bus to Altea, which is like this tiny little mountain town on the coast of the Mediterranean. And we stayed there and went to the same coffee shops. We ran into the same people. We went on an off season, so it was not tourist season. Super important. I think going in a time where there's not going to be a lot of tourists just allows you to experience something in a more authentic way. And just being honoring that this is someone's home, like this is their daily life, and making sure you're conscious to to not disturb that, but then also to allow yourselves to be, a pleasant life and a pleasant light in that space for people. Specifically, when I was there, I loved going to the same coffee shop and like learning the coffee shop workers' names. And obviously, my Spanish grew a ton. I had taken 4 years at that point in school, and I grew in my knowledge of that language so much more in immersive experiences. To answer your question about South Korea, that was a unique experience. One of my dear friends, who's also an actor, she is half Korean, and she grew up with a lot of her mom's side of cultural experiences being immersed in the home. And so she encouraged me to go to this thing called GBCS, which is Global Vision Christian Schools. And basically, I didn't have the money at the time. I was a poor student to travel. And I was like, I will find a way to travel. And she's like, well, this program flies you to Korea, South Korea, and you get a free flight, you get free board, you get free meals. They take care of you. All you got to do is work for free and teach English. And I was like, sign me up. And to be honest, making friends with the kids was so helpful, like for both understanding the culture, because they're so open about what the cultural moment is happening at that time, and they're also really blunt when they correct you on how to say certain things in their language. It's just the best. They're unapologetic.
That's kids for you.
That's kids for you. We love the no filter. I love it. It's perfect. So that was really fun.
Had you taught English before?
No.
How does that work?
Eddie, it is difficult. English is a wacko language. My whole perspective of our language, and changed. English is just, we have some weird rules in our in our language. So that was unique, seeing it from a different perspective. So thankfully, we had TAs there that were English speakers as well as they spoke in Korean. So, yeah, it was just a delightful experience.
Okay.
Yeah, I plan to hopefully go back one day. But
Yeah. I was almost wanting to hear about wait, how did you develop a curriculum? How did all this work?
oh, thankfully
And where did you
they
come from?
they
Yeah.
gave the curriculum.
Okay, great,
Thankfully,
great.
yeah, yeah.
So,
A lot of learning though.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Nice. So you had that as your gateway to travel. You figured out a way, and
yeah.
you made
There's
something
cheap ways to
happen.
travel.
That's really
There's
cool.
Yeah. I advise walking everywhere too. My last piece of advice. Walk everywhere if you can. It slows you down. It helps you just observe your surroundings, and you'll have happy run-ins with random people. Obviously stay safe. Like usually walk in pairs, but especially young women, please try not to travel alone. I still believe that we are empowered to do that, but
Safety first.
yeah,
Especially in a
I feel
foreign
comfortable
country.
flying by myself, but once I get to a country, I usually try to link up with someone I know or someone who is recommended to meet up with by a friend of a friend or whatever, It's important.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Let's switch over. Let's switch over and let's talk about There's two projects I want to highlight here.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. I just watched a short film called June, and that
June.
and that one just premiered, I believe, at a film festival this last week.
Yeah, Beverly Hills Film
So
Festival.
congratulations to the team. That's very cool.
Thanks.
And how was that?
Oh my gosh, Eddie. It was amazing.
Okay.
It really rejuvenated my love for film.
Hmm.
Not that I needed too much rejuvenating, but it was the combination of my favorite things, which is film and nature and good writing,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yes. Okay. So you're talking about the rejuvenation was being a part of this production is what you're, not the premiere event rejuvenated you, but
No,
being a part of.
being a part of
Okay.
the
Okay.
process. The event went really well, though,
Great.
thankfully.
So I do want to ask about specifics within the prep or the acting, like the some craft
Ooh,
stuff.
fun.
But before that, can you set up the story for us for those that
Yeah,
haven't seen it? Yeah.
yeah. Did you like watching it? I was
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Was it nice?
I enjoyed
Enjoy?
watching it. I have some
I know that
questions.
you watched an old cut though, so hopefully there's a scene that was taken out from, which is good. I think that that's actually really healthy as a filmmaker to be able to wean away unneeded parts. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. All right, June. June is a story about two friends, childhood best friends, Paul and June, and they go on a road trip to bury a loved one's ashes, to spread them in his favorite place. And, Joey and June and Paul, Joey is Paul's older brother, the one who sadly passed away. Um, that they had a really fruitful, wonderful, potent childhood experience. And it's set in Mammoth, up north near Yosemite National Park. And June Lake does make an appearance in the film. I feel like anyone who grew up around there or is from there would immediately recognize it if they watch the film. But basically, it just is kind of about the loss of childhood a little bit, the death of what was, and kind of the death of innocence in a way. Kind of a transition out of youth into adulthood and figuring out how to navigate grief at the same time as helping someone through grief. That's a really difficult part of the film. June is kind of faced with having to deal with her own emotions and deal with her own process and her own stage of grief. And it might look a lot different than her friend Paul, who has a different color of grief or is kind of processing it in a different way maybe. And there's some clashing to that. And there's also a little bit of a complexity of a relationship triangle going on where June had feelings for Joey throughout their younger years, and Paul had feelings for June, and so that's kind of complex. That's a
Yeah. Yeah.
little bit rough, and so how does June let go of her adoration of Joey in so many ways, and kind of comb through and sort through those complex feelings for Paul. And it's hard to like add romance into any type of season of grief. It's like
Mm.
there's that big question mark of like, is this happening because we're sharing trauma? Is this happening because we're the only thing that feels safe right now? And I think that those are some of the questions that June asks herself throughout the film. It doesn't appear much in dialogue necessarily, but I think it's happening underneath the surface. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's because you mentioned the writing as well,
Yeah.
and like you prefaced, I saw a potentially slightly different cut, but than the one that was premiered.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was fun trying to piece it together. I'm like, what is this relationship dynamic? It doesn't really like. I like that it didn't smack me in the face with lame
Yeah.
dialogue of like, oh, remember you felt this way about my brother, and also I'm his brother, and also you're just your friend from our child. Like, there's nothing
Yeah.
really said,
Sure.
And in the very beginning, like you and this guy get to this cabin, and he says like, "All right, like essentially, I'm taking the couch. You can have my parents' bedroom." And I'm like, "My parents? Um, but wait, he's on the couch and she's going to the room. Who are these people to each other?" Like it took me a while.
Mm-hmm.
I even had to like rewatch segments of it to be like,
Mm-hmm.
"What's happening here? And what's the
Yeah.
dynamic? Okay, they're related." I was like, "Did you and the like?" I was so your description helps me
Oh, okay.
confirm
Good.
what essentially what I had thought.
Yeah.
But that
This
was it.
it's nuance.
Yeah,
It's like
it
you
was
could easily.
nice. It was nice
Yeah.
leaving with questions and wondering things,
Hmm.
and the grief was clear,
Hmm.
and I like how you described the moments of like your character trying to sort through stuff because
Hmm.
I did receive that without it actually explicitly being told. Like, there's the dance scene.
Hmm.
The younger brother puts music on and kind of pulls you up.
I'm like kind of reluctant. I don't feel like, I don't really feel like dancing, but that's how he's processing it is kind of like I need to shake this out. I need to like, you know, feel
Yeah.
good, I need to cover over it a little bit. And that's his way of processing
Yeah,
and
and I was able to see, yeah,
mhm.
a lot of like there's a lot going on, and I think you have a line that kind of says a lot, that
Mm.
kind of like switches up the mood for sure, about like you say like sometimes I still think about
Oh
little
yeah.
uh
We're dancing and it's turned into a slow dance because we've just we got exhausted dancing, all crazy as best we could. But June and Paulo are slow dancing. They're in a closer embrace and they're kind of both kind of holding each other in that moment. I think just reflecting on how weird it is, death. Just literally like such a human moment of just being like, wow, we're all heading there. Uh, that stark reality of death uncovering what's really important in life and recognizing the absurdity of death, that this urn with Joey's ashes isn't Joey. It's just not him anymore. And I've experienced a lot of death in my own life, and that it is a sobering, surreal thing where you're just like, this is no longer them. They have left in some way, and um I think that moment is kind of a one little like, okay, June's like, "Ah, I gotta pull through for Paul right now," and she kind of tries to lighten the mood and kind of makes a joke by draw trying her best to draw what Joey looked like with a pen on the urn. And it lightens Paul's mood just for like a split second, and that's enough. Um, I will say that my drawing of Joey looked a lot like the Kool-Aid man. I'll say it. I was like, oh man. But continuity, we had to keep it. So
That's
it
funny.
was funny. Oh.
This is a little bit of a diversion, but I will say that as I was watching that specific dance scene, it did remind me of a different movie.
Mm.
There's a scene in the Harry Potter film.
That's literally that was director Ben Holland was
I
who
picked
directed
it
it.
up. I picked
He
it up.
totally, yeah, he used it as a reference
Yeah.
scene for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it came across. I was 100%. I'm
Absolutely.
like, okay, this is in Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Dude, yeah.
When they're like in the forest for the whole movie. It's super slow, really heavy,
So heavy.
and it's really sad, and I
When
love it.
Harry and Hermione,
Yeah,
right?
Harry and
Yeah.
Hermione dance to some music. Like Ron is left, and they're just left alone, and
Yeah.
they're kind of just dancing, and it's
I think Harry takes off the burden and like the weight of the Horcrux
yeah,
necklace and
it,
is like, we're setting this down and we're just gonna like,
yeah.
yeah.
So even me feeling a similar energy in that helped give me clarity on the relational dynamic. I'm like, okay, these are two friends, just like Harry and Hermione.
Yeah.
It's not a romantic scene.
Not necessarily.
This is
Yeah.
a grieving scene,
Exactly.
and it was cool.
That's cool.
So it was
I love
fun.
that you picked up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um. So you mentioned this. Okay, so you got to be in nature a lot for this one.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I? Yeah. Share. I don't know.
I
Can I?
mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
What stories come to mind when you think about the experience
sure.
of making the film, and what you look fondly back on the most? I guess.
I think why I get so giddy about it is because it's one of the reasons why I chose to go more the film route versus theater. I love theater. I love stage. It is so wonderful in and of itself. Set designers and production designers, they have such an amazing job. They get to like build a world for the actors. But there's something about being able to shoot in a raw element that is so specific and it's just so liberating. And I mean, I've always felt so free in nature. I think that it's something that's untouched by humans. It's just in and of itself just a wonder, you know? And so getting to just shoot in the raw nature of Mammoth and the mountains and the trees, and a whole situation that comes to mind is we hiked like the entire crew, cast and crew, hiked like 2 miles plus up elevation to this cliff to shoot a scene where we do some cliff jumping into the water. And I did do my own stunts. I literally was like, send me in. They're like, it's going to be cold, Hannah. I'm like, I don't care. Like, it just reminded me of summertime in Washington. And yeah, I was just like, we were all just so down, you know? I think that that really matters is having a team of people who are so willing to go all in and kind of grin and bear it. Filming is sometimes really exhausting, and sometimes the elements, even though they're beautiful, make things difficult. We had to figure out a way to like, climb up these rocks safely with gear, make sure that everyone was like safe.
Yeah, I've
And
been there. I've been
so
there.
yeah. So yeah, I appreciated that. It felt really collaborative and everyone had a really great mood. And yeah, the scene that we shot where we were dancing though, that was like one of those nights that we were all just delirious. We shot that at like 1 in the morning,
Wow.
and so it worked out
Yeah,
perfectly though
yeah. You were playing
because
drunk.
yeah, it's great. I was like, I'm already there. Don't even have to do any impediment work. I'm
Just,
just already
just
there.
let it show, if anything.
Exactly. But something I really feel collaborative with June, like one way I feel like we really overlap as people, is our love for nature and feeling the need to retreat into the wilderness to find clarity. Something that I think that kind of came out to me in a new way when I watched it during the premiere was I was like, wow, June really does a good job of being like, no, I need to be by myself. I need to go into nature and I need to be in the wilderness and I need to just ask some questions to myself. And yeah, maybe she could do it in a little bit nicer of a way. There's that scene where she's like,
Oh yeah.
Paul's like, I'll go with you. And I'm like, no, and it's
No,
just,
it made sense. It made
sometimes you
sense
got
to
to put up
me.
boundaries, you got to do that. You can't find the same, clarity sometimes when you're with people than when you're alone. And that's
Yeah,
okay.
especially new bound like that was a new boundary for that relationship. So
Absolutely.
so there is like a little bit of a like an overcorrection of just like it's like
Hmm.
the blurting because
Just, it was like something she wanted to say for so
yeah
long, Yeah.
it's not so simple of being super calm and so,
Yeah.
there's a lot of emotions. So yeah,
Yeah.
it made sense. And then she just laying in the grass and just chilling.
Dude, that was, yeah.
Yeah,
Loved that.
yeah.
Everyone should do that.
Everyone should do that.
Everyone should do that. Go lay in the sun.
Yeah, maybe
Touch the
watch.
grass.
Well, here in LA, watch out for the grass. Grass is dangerous
Yes.
here.
Pick the right park.
Bring a blanket. No, yeah, you go. You gotta leave. Okay, yeah, get and find some good grass.
Yeah.
Okay. I do want to, cause okay, we're nearing time,
Okay.
but I do want to jump from the June experience into Rosemary, which
Oh,
is a short film that you wrote,
I did.
acted in,
I did.
directed,
Indeed.
produced,
Mm-hmm.
set designed.
Mm-hmm.
You did everything.
That
Mostly
side of
everything.
things.
Everything you didn't do was done by a collaborator. Remind me
Yes.
his name?
Shout out to him. His name's Tudor Williams. His production company is called Way Out West Creatives. And he filled in the gaps of where I'm just not skilled, aka shooting, editing,
Sound.
sound, lighting. He's also a musician, so he was able to, yeah, just have an ear for everything. And it was so cool how fast that came together. I was absolutely shocked. We did it in 3 days, but only like a couple hours each day, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
We could have done it in one day if we
So
had done
the
it all
same
together.
thing we did for June.
Yeah.
Can you fill us in on what the story
Sure.
is, and because this is available on your YouTube
This is on my YouTube,
and
yes. And
Instagram,
it's on
right?
my Instagram, yeah, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently lost my grandmother in February. Um, so it is actually interesting the timing of June coming out alongside this. You know, it was their themes are very similar, but Rosemary is about a young woman named Willow, and she is kind of the caretaker for. At the beginning, we see a rosemary plant that she's treating very much like a human. She's like a little bit like obsessed with making sure it's okay, it's doing well. She's, making eggs for it in the beginning, and there's a couple of scenes, where there's some passing moments of time. It's a very slice of life kind of feeling situation. And then something bad happens. And, um, near the end, we are, confronted with the true visual of the symbol of the rosemary bush, um, which it's, it's pretty clear, I think, once you get at least halfway through the whole thing. What it's really about, who the rosemary plant actually is. And so it does confront themes of end of life, and themes of time, and themes of death. And yeah, I think that I wrote it in memory of my grandmother, and used elements of her life for the storytelling, but by no means does it do her life full justice. She lived a very beautiful life. There's pictures of her when she was younger at the end of the film, which I had never seen before. And it's like super weird when you see yourself and your grandparents, you're like, whoa, we have the same dimple, or like, whoa, we're
Yeah,
making that
yeah,
same
yeah.
expression. That's like wild. There's a lot of delight that came forward during the process of making it, and a lot of healing too. And overall, I think this is a shout out to filmmakers. Just make your stuff. I super love festivals. I think they're awesome. It's a great way to get networking in there, and it's a great way to like honor your films and have a great way to like bring your crew back together and all that. But if there's tiny little projects like this, and you're like passionate about the concept, and you just kind of want to keep making stuff and keep that ball rolling, and grow that muscle of getting stuff out, I think it's like totally fine to just make something and then just put it out there and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah,
So that's what it kind of was with this.
yeah, it's an exploration of yourself,
Yeah.
and a way of I was gonna say cultivating, but that's not really the word I'm thinking of. It's yeah, there's lots to process in our lives,
Yeah.
and art is a great way to let this stuff out and,
Yeah,
and work through it. And it doesn't have
absolutely.
to be, hey, I'm making this thing because this is going to get me my next job, and this is like just yeah,
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
go back to those roots of I'm gonna be in, I'm yeah, let me just
Yeah.
be here, be present, and make something for me essentially,
Yeah.
and enjoy it
Absolutely.
with a collaborator that you enjoy working with, and
100%.
yeah, that stuff's
Exactly.
great. And I think it came out looking amazing.
Thank you.
Um, I remember because we had grabbed coffee like a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and you had one thing left to shoot in it. It was like the driving scene in the car.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, good thing, good thing she didn't need my help. So I offered, like, I was like, well, if it doesn't work out, if there's any issues, like, I want to see this get done, and I'm open to helping with that. But Tutor was booked and ready to do it and stuff. And I watched it. I'm like, good thing he did it, because this looks great. There
Yeah.
was like a car mount. I was like, the car took off with the camera.
Oh
I was
yeah.
like,
Yeah, he's got like stupid cool gear. Like that's another tip too. It's like if you want to do this stuff and you want to just be creating your own things, like if you want kind of like a little bit of freedom and like less reliance on maybe renting gear and stuff, like put aside money. It's hard obviously right now with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, but putting aside a little percentage of your paychecks from other jobs, or just like a little percentage of whatever, and saving some money up and then buying your own gear.
yeah,
For me that was, how I was able to produce this short in a visual way that I wanted to, was because I put some money into it. I didn't put like a stupid amount of money into it, but I have a high standard of excellence in my work, and I want things to look really beautiful, and I want them to, you know, uh, not be not be limited in their capacity, the stories that I'm trying to tell. So, uh, yeah, that's what I want to do going forward is, in the ups and downs of this industry, when you're not always provided a job, it's okay sometimes to just be like, all right, the only thing I have to look forward to in this season is something that I'm going to create for myself. And that has to be enough. The process has to be enough. The joy of creating has to be sustaining enough, because this whole career, this whole thing that we're doing, it's a longevity thing. It's something that takes a long time, over an entire lifetime sometimes, to, you know, grow and cultivate and get better and better and better with each thing.
What I'm hearing is, well, there's a lot there. Invest in yourself is essentially like you're kind of that's what I received in that, and I agree. Yeah, make stuff happen, and
Yeah.
and make sure you're enjoying it, and
Yeah.
make sure
The
it's something
process.
you actually want to do, and like yeah, all that self reflection, very helpful.
Thanks. I hope so. You do a great job of like simplifying the many
Mm,
words that I use to describe things.
No,
It's very helpful.
I think
Thank you, Eddie.
you're welcome. All right, I want to touch on a couple of smaller things here. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. You're training for a marathon?
Oh, I already did it.
You did the marathon.
Yeah, I
Wow,
trained.
that happened fast.
Yeah, I started back in July of last year, and then did some training with a friend who is a personal trainer in Hawaii, and he has his app. They're called Mean Training. Check them out. But yeah, they trained me and my husband, and we just like got to share in that together. I did a hard thing, First year of marriage, we were like, we should share in a passion. We should have like a shared passion. We should do something that is really hard and yet attainable. And you know what is crazy is it was such a like catalyst for like the rest of life and for your career stuff. Doing something consistently that's really hard, that involves a lot of willpower, in secret, in private. Not a lot of people are on these runs with us. They're not seeing us do these things,
Yeah.
um, and allowing the work to show for itself, at the end of it all during the run. We were able to run the marathon in Hawaii, the Honolulu Marathon, back in December. And we were able to run it under 5 hours, in extreme heat.
Wow.
And I think the next marathon I do is going to be a lot colder. I grew up running in the cold, of Washington. So, but I was still really pleased with our outcome. We didn't have like a super strong like time that we wanted to make, but we did want to make it under 5 hours, and we did
Okay.
just about.
Did you two run it together? Like
Yeah.
you ran together?
Yeah, we
That's
paced
great.
together.
That's awesome.
It was really helpful. It was
Yeah. How?
good.
So you're saying you're open to doing it again? Another marathon?
Crazy enough, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did it take time to get back there, or did you
Mhm.
immediately know after it was over that, oh my gosh, I want to do that again?
I
Because
think.
I've avoided marathons myself. I've done a half, and I'm
Okay.
just like, I'm never gonna do the marathon. Please don't make me do it.
I do have like a theory that marathons might not be the best for your body, to be honest. Like doing them really close together is probably not I just wouldn't advise it personally. That's just my own life. But, I think half marathons are great. Um, I think that marathons in and of themselves, I think what was surreal about the one we got to run was that there was no time limit for this one. So the diversity of people that were running this was very emotional.
Yeah.
We were watching elders run this. We were watching like pregnant moms run this. We watched this guy like push his grandma in a wheelchair for like the last mile across the finish line. We watched a woman who was blind running between two other guys holding on to like ropes to guide her. Just like super surreal, beautiful moments. And if they can do it, I can do it, and I think
Yeah.
you could do it too, everyone listening. Like I think that's like something in our humanness we gotta realize is that we have the ability to do hard things. We really do. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's hard,
No,
but
that
it's
no
yeah,
that
it's
that
good.
those stories sound amazing, and
Yeah,
it nearly brings a tear to my eye thinking about it. I'm like,
truly.
no, that's crazy. And I know, yeah, a marathon is a really a place. It is a high bar to hit, and it does take a lot of work, and that's kind of the
Yeah.
joy and the love of it too. Is like it's not something. Well, I know there's like my mind went to there's an episode of How I Met Your Mother where what's his name? There it comes up like Ted can't do the marathon, and his buddy Barney is like, dude, I can. What's the issue? I can run a marathon, and he does it like with zero training.
Dude, that's whack.
and, well,
Some people do that. I mean,
and the joke was like he was on the subway at the end of the end of the episode, and he couldn't get back up,
yeah.
and he got stuck on the subway.
Yeah, your
He
knees,
paid the
your
price.
ankles. Yeah.
But
I think that slow and steady wins the race, honestly. Like a marathon is so much about pacing and
yeah.
just like long persistent steps, one step at a time, literally.
Well, all the metaphors are there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we're there. I will.
Yay.
I mean, there's
yeah.
the timer.
There's a timer.
Wow.
Wow.
My internal clock is
Wow, that
good.
was so triggering. That's what I wake up to. So.
Okay, so I wanna close it off with. Man, the alarm threw me off a little bit.
I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay. It's okay.
So sorry. You want to close off? You can take a deep one.
Yeah, I want to close off with hearing about the future. And what you're like the what you're looking forward to kind of this is a video diary at this point. This is logging. This is a moment in time.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to we're in April of 2025.
2025.
And what are you looking forward to, and what's you just put out some cool stuff, and
Sure.
I'm wondering, work stuff, life stuff, whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, there's like family stuff I'm looking forward to. I love being an auntie. I love investing in my family. I think with the themes of what we've been talking about today, I think about what's really important, and I think that in my life I want to make sure that my pillars are in the right place, and I think my value of my partner, my family, I want to make sure that they're placed above even career. Sometimes I think it's important to remember that those people are they're going to be with you your entire life, and so investing and knowing them and being known by them is important. And so that's like something I can think of when I think about the immediate future that's known, right? A lot of the future is unknown for many of us. So a known thing is that I'm going to be pursuing closeness with my family moving forward in a more intimate way. I'm lucky enough to live closer to some of my siblings, down here in LA. I think career-wise, I think I'm really just excited about what's being made in the world. I've gotten a few auditions, haven't gotten the roles for them in the last year and a half or so. But knowing that those kinds of projects are being made is just absolutely breathtaking. And seeing them come into fruition, seeing them, be dropped on streaming platforms, it's just really cool. And I think it just reminds me that there's another narrative happening underneath the surface that I can't see, and I'm excited for that. There's a lot of faith-based films being made, and as a person of faith, I just delight in the fact that there's finally like quality, like beautiful, intentional films being curated, and they're like, being eaten up by the world, and it's just like really, really cool. I think there's a wave coming. I think we're just like literally in phase 1 of what the potential of that is, and I hope that I can be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. And what's for me will be for me. How that manifests itself, I have no idea. But all I know is that I think I'm just leaning into God's will with all of the projects that are yet to be, all the roles that are yet to be. And yeah, and that's literally it. Just keeping my eyes steadfast on Him, and then also being really attuned to the kinds of stories He wants me to tell myself. So I recently was able to film a short film called Hadassah back in August. It's being submitted to some festivals right now, but it's a really short scene, kind of a proof of concept situation that I was able to make with a crew of people. And it's about Queen Esther in the Bible. And the uniqueness of that story is really special to my heart. It's a story that doesn't mention God's name once, but you can see His invisible fingerprints literally everywhere. There's always little like Esther is made to be. It's literally written to be filmed. It's perfectly laid out the way that the story is, like the little pieces and the parallels and the you know the happenings that are just the person is in the right place at the right time. It's just like it's just really exhilarating. And so if I'm the person who, makes the feature, that's awesome. If someone else does, that's awesome too. But I got to play her for a scene, a little short, and for now, that's enough for me. Yeah.
That's great.
So yeah,
No, it sounds sounds nice.
it is nice.
A lot of nice things.
A lot of nice things. Yeah, just pleasant.
No, that's great. It's nice to hear. Okay.
Cool.
So that said, last thing. For those that want to follow you and follow the journey and keep up with, like, because you do post about filmmaking stuff and yeah, it's fun. I think one of our early meetups, I mentioned like your aesthetic is like it's a cool aesthetic, and you like even your stories are very like, I don't know, it's just interesting.
Thanks.
So for those that want to kind of keep up and follow the journey, or otherwise
Sure.
get in contact and book you for stuff,
Yeah.
I mentioned hannahsulak.com, but
That's my website,
where are other good places to keep up?
I am not. So I am on social media, but I will be honest. I don't go on often. I kind of just pop on, drop stuff, and get off.
Sure.
It's not my. It's not. It's not my favorite place in the world. I still think it's a very beautiful tool.
I think it's the health. It sounds
It's
healthy.
literally sure. So yeah, I do only have Instagram. That's just my only social media, and so you can find me at Hannah Sulak on Instagram. And yeah, and then my YouTube, I guess, which I'll be posting my future projects. And then, yeah, my website, hannahsulak.com.
There we go.
Easy
All right.
peasy.
All right. That's the episode, everybody. Thanks again for being a part. High five.
You're the best, Eddie. That's a
Thanks.
great high five.
That was good. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, do all the things. And until next time.
Peace
All
and
right,
love.
bye.
Bye.